Namaste. So we begin Savitri from a certain angle. Now, there is a reason why we are using a certain angle, and that angle is that with a little background, that every time the avatar comes and when I won't use the word leaves or departs, but he steps behind the curtain. There is a work he comes to do in the human body, and there is a work he needs to do when he steps out of the human body. In the human body, it's important for him to take birth in matter so that there can be a direct stamp and energizing of matter. That's why he takes the human body. Otherwise, divine has no need to take a human body. He can do everything from there through vibhutis, reformers, great heroes, martyrs, sages, saints, countless ways, even without any of them. They are inbuilt through nature itself. By pressing upon nature, he can create changes. But there is a kind of change which requires a direct intervention. One, when one goes through a great crisis, which appears outwardly crisis of events and circumstances, but inwardly it's a crisis of consciousness. Meaning thereby consciousness has reached a point beyond which it needs to explode and burst into new dimensions, new territories. But it needs a powerful lever or an action. And that's what the avatar comes to do that. And because it's evolving, the return of consciousness is not disembodied, it's evolving with matter. So it is the matter through which it is recovering itself. If it had to leave matter and recover, it is very easy. But because it is recovering itself through matter, using matter, modifying matter, therefore the great challenge, the crisis comes. Second is, the reason why he descends into matter is that if matter changes, then it spreads like a wide contagion, the real enduring change. And this we all know that how much ever you may learn typing in the mind, it is the fingers which must learn it. If the fingers learn it, you won't forget it. It's true of driving also. People say, oh, it's very easy. You know the cycle, you can drive the scooter, but we know what happens. But once it enters into the body and the physical system, then it becomes the usual norm. So he comes to modify matter, to open the doors of matter to a new possibility, and that's why he has to take a human body. When he has done that, then now the rest will unfold. It's bound to unfold. So he steps behind. But then between when the divine is present physically and the full unfolding, man needs a visible, tangible guide. So during that period, to navigate, to help man, cross that border or that passage, that transition, the divine beings who come, the avatar, he gives to man a scripture. What really is scripture? Scripture is a law and a way. Here it's the law of truth and a way to be followed. Now these scriptures, each of them, come with a certain date. Very few things there are eternal aspects in every scripture. For instance, there is one reality. This is an eternal aspect. But then there is something which is contextual, temporal, which is for a certain context of space and time and the group of humanity to which it is being given. It helps us to navigate during that period. So, for example, when we look at in the earliest dawns of mankind, the scriptures are the Vedas, which are they were experiences. The forefathers, first they transmitted it verbally. The Upanishads, then you have the Gita, of course we have the Bible, we have the Quran. These are all scriptures which have been given, or we have the Talmud, Guru Granth Sahib. These are scriptures given to man to help him navigate the passage in the absence of some kind of a divine representative. So these, not that all divine representatives are avatars, but still they are there to help mankind go through a phase evolutionary process. Shri Krishna, the previous avatar of Dwapar, gave in the hands of man the Gita, that when I leave physically the earth, again the avatar never leaves, but something of him remains always as the personality, which is the gate. The person or the mask is gone, but the personality remains. That's how people can come in contact with the divine through the personality of the avatar, his persona, by remembering his qualities, attributes, by addressing a hymn of adoration. See, personality is not the outer mask. It's not the persona, because the outer body keeps changing, but the personality is something much different. So, human beings through bhakti, through adoration, through faith, come in contact with the personality. But there is also something they want tangible, something which they want the divine to speak to us. And it is, at least the previous avatars we see, they can only give the law in general. This is the way to live, this is the way to go about things, this is the way to understand things. So it helps like a guide in the absence of the physical embodiment, because very few can really contact inside and discover the inner truth. Now, Sri Aurobindo and the mother went, if I may use a very friendly term, overboard. They gave so much to man. Frankly speaking, no avatar or divine representative has given so much. Probably they were like parents who just wanted to lutao, to just give and give and give. Can we even imagine? Now we, of course, speak about the 35 volumes. What it must have taken. He had no need to do any of these things. He was living in his inalienable bliss. Why would he write all that? Why would the mother come, interact with us, give us so much? And each of these writings are a scripture. Each message from anywhere you pick up doesn't matter randomly. It is like a word which vibrates into the inner being. So Sri Aurobindo and the mother gave that to man, not just one scripture, but many, many, many scriptures. But they wanted to give Sri Aurobindo wanted to give a final scripture. Something which is the ultimate, where he has put all of his being and the mother's consciousness into it. And that gift is Savitri. So this scripture is given to man with this as a concrete help, that when they have withdrawn into behind the physical body, physical vision, that's why you see Savitri appeared in 50 and 51. When Sri Aurobindo is drawing behind the physical vision, this is a gift he left with us, so that through the few centuries which are required for the new creation, this is our guide, not just a guide mentally, not just to change our thinking and attitudes, which it does, not just to change states of consciousness, build new states of consciousness in us, not just to tell us, of course it doesn't speak about what to do, but how to do things. Why should we do what we do? And therefore, it becomes a guide which not only points the road, but carries us on the way, because the transition is so much more drastic. So it is the law of truth expressed for the beings of the future, for those human beings who are getting ready, preparing themselves and seeking the way towards the future. But the beauty is he takes up an ancient legend. Why? Because this project, though it appears new, and it is new, newest of the new, yet it is the oldest of the old. It is a project taken in far back times, as is the story recounted in Mahabharata. What was the project of that Savitri had undertaken in that age? There was the challenge of fate and of death. And she took this project that can man conquer fate? And the response she gave is yes. Can man conquer death? Yes. But then over a period of time, man forgets it. See, this is connected with earth. That is the beauty of Savitri. Why Sri Aurobindo takes it? It's a conquest here. It's not escaping from the law of fate and going into some other realm, which is what we keep hearing, that this is, well, it is your past karma and it'll unfold. But you can escape from here, go through this, you have to go through what you have to go through, but there is a realm where you can transit and be freed from birth and death. But here in Savitri, it's a conquest upon earth. That is the remarkable thing. The whole project of creation is the conquest of the divine upon matter and its manifestation in material world. So this is the background. I'll not go into all the details of the books and the cantos because we have done that, and we'll come straight to Book 1, Canto 1, the Book of Beginnings. How does the project begin? Divine project. The symbol dawn. Well, it begins with the utter darkness, when entirely the old is absorbed back. That is what is called as pralaya. all that we cherished, all that we thought is heights, we see something like that in the Mahabharata. The high points, Dronacharya, Bhis Pitama, all of them are taken, all of them lie on the floor for a new creation to come. And all these beings which actually embody the new creation, none of them are purely earthly beings. They are beings of earth, that is, I am talking of the five Pandavas. And of course, Karna could have been one of them. Shri Krishna gave him the golden chance. So all of them were earthly beings with a touch of something higher, including Parikshit. Parikshit dies and is reborn. He is reborn because Krishna put something of himself in Parikshit. That's how the birth is. So new creation begins with the complete, we may use the word, death of the old. Does everything die? No. Something remains. Something like a memory, something like an urge, a creative urge which we had taken through the day but didn't complete it. So something remains like an aspiration which is veiled, and that's how he describes the symbol dawn. It was the hour before the gods awake. Gods, we know that this operates at several levels. Every day morning, gods awake. It's called Brahma Muhurt. Creation begins before the gods are come into existence. That's how the Rig Veda says. Even gods don't know the ultimate secret. Because it started with the Divine Mother stirring that which we may use the word non-being in the highest sense. And she brought being out of the non-being. The gods were not yet born. That's how the Nasadya Sutra starts. Whether the gods know it or they do not know, who can say? Because gods cannot know. They come later. They are after the stir begins. So it was the hour before the gods away. But even for every day, when the new creation comes, the gods don't know what is their role now. They have played a role in the old creation. That's why we see when the mother is going for meditation, all the gods are coming. What is our job now? It has to change. And we see how the mother is teaching them. For instance, he asks Durga to surrender. He says, Shiva, now your work is to break the old creation, not complete pralaya. Break the ego of men. Not pralaya. Earlier, okay, time has come, absorb it. To each one, Brahma, the word of new creation, she has given to Shiva, to Sri Aurobindo. Because it's something which cannot be handled. So to Krishna, well, he has the delight that will sustain us through the journey. And he enters into Sri Aurobindo. It's a different delight. See, who can undertake this adventure? Who delights in this kind of sport? You have to be a little bit of that. It's a different delight which sustains this journey toward the new creation, which he speaks of as the adventure of consciousness and joy. It's the joy at climbing a peak which you never knew existed. So it's a new delight. So Shri Krishna is there, running, carrying us through the journey. But it starts with, it was the hour before the gods awake. Mother and Sri Aurobindo knew it, and none knew it. It was the hour before the gods awake. Across the path of the divine event, the huge foreboding mind of night, alone in her unlit temple of eternity, lay stressed immobile upon silence marge. The new creation had to come, the new dawn. None knew about it. But nature, material nature, is in a state of expectant hush. She is full of the old things and the old creation. Magnificent things she has made. There is the experience of the mother, the pink bathtub. She tells, why are you trying something new? It is so dangerous. There are very beautiful things here out. Come and see. So see, material nature shows us the pink bathtub. See, it's so beautiful. They are symbols of, old creation peaks, like, realizations which were very great. See, there is enough material. Why do you want something new? This is very dangerous. People are trying to kill. That's how, she shows them bombing going on, and the mother laughs and says, yes, yes, I'm aware, but I wanted new creation. So none knows. But somewhere there is a divine event which is going to take place, and material nature is in a state of expectant hush. And it is like a night before the dawn. During that phase, inconscient, now everything has turned mechanical, dark, obscure, unconscious. And that is the time when the divine comes to tread the earth. Almost one felt, opaque, impenetrable. 100 years back or 250 years back, people would have thought that's life. So better to really go into another world. One can understand. See, Vedic rishis that way had an advantage. They had no baggage, no civilizational wars and collapses. So the pristine purity, typal age, seek the divine. But down the ages, what people 1,000 years back would have felt, oh, so many efforts, collapses. I think it is better to go into another world. This is an illusion. That vision which can see the entire journey, movement towards a great blossoming, that was missing. So almost one felt opaque, impenetrable, like in the thick of night. Nothing registers in the sombre symbol of our eyeless muse. Interesting. There is something going on in the depths. That's why there is the muse, musing. It's like when one is asleep, you're calling the name, but but something is going on. The person who is calling doesn't know. The doorbell is ringing, but you are in another state. Maybe a dream world, maybe a nightmare, maybe something good. So that is the state of creation before the new comes. So he is describing that beautifully in this somber symbol of our eyeless muse. The abysm of the unbodied infinite, a fathomless zero occupied the world. So if you really look 150 years back, we'll see that. As if the inconscient has almost swallowed it, chewing it, trying to digest it. All that is horrid, cruel, abominable, abysmal. Look at anywhere in the world. And the great countries, how they were even today the champion of liberty. Even in 60s, in the parliament, the discussion is going on. Now, India, it's a place for scavengers. The women are sexless. Just imagine what kind of thought. And these are the people who are supposed to create a utopia and a dream world. What kind of consciousness we can imagine 100 years back? It must have been. So what else it is but the pralaya of another kind. Inconscient had completely swallowed. It was governing earth nature. So that is the state. I'm reminded of a little poem of Sri Aurobindo. Over the hilltops of silence he came, armed with the flame, and looked upon the world that his greatness and passion must free. He must have looked upon this world. Sri Aurobindo himself, when he was 7, all the darkness he saw invading and entering him, because that was the state. Like Shiva, he drank all that. Oh, this is the state in which one is born. A fathomless zero occupied the world. There seemed to be no end of that. A power of fallen boundless self awake. Between the first and the last nothingness. First, the original nothingness. Why it is nothing? It is nothing which contains everything. It is a nothingness where no human conceptions, no structures can hold. It is beyond forms, beyond names, beyond qualifications. There is no way you can describe it. And the last nothingness is its shadow. So there is, everything is again present, but only as a vague possibility. There is nothing you can hold on to as support. Thought, consciousness, just like in deep sleep. Between the first and the last nothingness, recalling the tenebrous womb from which it came. So there is yet some power there, power of fallen, boundless self. That is what creates this nothingness, the shadow of God. A power of fallen, boundless self, awake. Suddenly it begins to wake up in that nothingness. Recalling the tenebrous womb from which it came, turned from the insoluble mystery of birth and the tardy process of mortality, and longed to reach its end in vacant Nought. So something wakes up like very vague. We'll see that at every level. At a human level, it's very easy to understand. From dense, deep sleep, suddenly you wake up. It's all state of confusion. The general tendency is, okay, little more. Womb from which it came. Let's have maybe a short nap again. As in a dark beginning of all things, a mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will. So everything was driven mechanically, unconsciously. You see, even 100 years back, that's what the world is. Now we see that there is a change, the revolt and tendency for something new coming up. But everything was going on mechanically, unconsciously. This is life, this is world, this is creation. Stock ways of looking at life, living life, and that's what one felt as living. So when we wake up, the first thing is about mechanical acts. I'm not talking of conscious beings, but generally. The first tendency mechanically, one feels the way, gropes one's way rather than feels the way, goes to the washroom, picks up the brush, all mechanical process. Or drinks the water. Cradle the cosmic drowse of ignorant force. So, still the drowse of the cosmic ignorance, because it has to wake up to a new creation, continues. It lingers. Now, in our sleep, it takes few minutes, but when it comes to new creation, it prolongs for few centuries sometimes. It's still that cosmic drowse. Even when the divine comes and goes, people are still in that state of torpor and sleep. A voice ill heard shall speak, the soul obey. Whose moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. So still, after the night, the sun, the star, they are all lighting up. They have to, it's the stage. So everything is moving according to that. All things through mechanical, habitual patterns, that is continuing. Athwart the vain, enormous trance of space, its formless stupor without mind or life. So this is the inconscient which is being described. Mindless. It's one kind of trance. When people meditate too much, they enter into two kinds of trance. One is the trance towards the superconscious, and the other is the trance in the inconscient. Both seem like sleep. And depending on, sometimes both can be refreshing because something like that. So there is that trance of the inconscient. This is, by trance is meant where there is no movement, no stir. That is the state of trance, in which the Prakriti has gone into a state of complete self-absorption, self-involution. So there is no stir. That's what is meant by trance here. Its formless stupor without mind or life, a shadow spinning through a soulless void, thrown back once more into unthinking dreams. Earth wheeled abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. Now he brings us to the center stage. Center stage of evolution is Earth. but it does not know what is going to happen. It is full of maybe few thousand years. It is only seen rise and falls, but nothing substantial. So it is moving, it has gone off to sleep, like again, same thing is repeating over and over again. It is also sick and tired, weary, but unconquerable. And it's moving across and across for millenniums, waiting, hopefully one day, he shall come and tread and change this suffering earth. So it is moving in that cosmic drowse. Mechanically, it doesn't know that something is going to happen and a fate is going to change by an unchanging will. One more line, then we'll stop. The impassive skies were neutral, empty, still. The sun has not yet come. There is no dawn. If you don't see the watch and you're not able to feel that movement inside of morning, look at the sky, it looks all the same. Impassive skies. But also, again, it is the hour before the gods have awake. So whether it be the inner skies of the mind or the gods whose help one needs, all of them seem to be asleep. And yet, a divine event is going to take place on earth as the center stage. And Savitri is about that divine event, about the divine unfolding in creation, and what is our role. Though our role comes much later, after everything is prepared, but still it speaks of what we have to do from our side. It's the story of the new creation after a whole cycle. Chatur Yoga is complete, and whatever was possible has been done, and now that old creation is beginning to be reabsorbed. In the jaws of the inconscient, life has become mechanical, meaningless, unconscious, even though there is some stir here and there, but by and large, it has accepted its fate accompli. And at that point of time, something happens, something begins to happen, which we'll read next time. Namaste.